we're going to be starting off with a video called Israel releases 10 Palestinian detainees, freed men report abuse. This is going to be probably very, 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 very heavy. So for anybody who's not ready for that right now, I definitely recommend maybe skipping this part for now. But let's get into it.
Emotional scenes after Israel released Palestinian detainees back into Gaza. After medical treatment, some spoke of the torture at the hands of the Israeli army.
I was detained on November the 6th and spent 165 days there. From the moment we arrived, we were subjected to constant suffering. There was no sleep, only torture. Every day, starting at 5 a.m., they would wake us up, and from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m., we were forced to stand without sitting or moving. Sometimes they made us kneel for 2 or 3.
Currently, I am reacting to Palestinian detainees being released by the Israeli government.
3 hours straight. Anyone who moved was beaten. After that, they made us stand with our arms raised above our heads. If your arms dropped, they would beat you.
Others say they...
To be honest, that sounds a lot like what the US government was doing to people during 9/11 and the quote-unquote war on terror years. Like back when the United States government used to, in black sites around the world, torture people who vaguely looked like, in their perspective, like terrorists, basically people who were innocent and had nothing to do with anything that was going on. Just horrible stuff. If you know who the Boys are on YouTube, you could have seen their video on CIA torture methods, and they talk a lot about similar methods to what the one gentleman was talking about, where they're made to raise their arms up and not put them down. If they put them down, they get beaten. So yeah, very sad, very disturbing, and it breaks my heart that this happened to these gentlemen.
They don't know why they were detained.
We were arrested on January the 25th last year at Al-Aqsa checkpoint. I'm just a worker. I have no connection to anything. I'm simply a laborer, a factory man. I have children and a family. I have many daughters, and I'm a grandfather, blessed with grandchildren.
Family members, while relieved to have their men back, are visibly shocked.
I'm very happy that my father has been released, but I didn't expect to see him like this. He wasn't like that before. He's changed a lot. This isn't the father I know.
Since the war began, hundreds of Palestinians have been released from Israeli detention. Some in 2023 as part of a prisoner exchange with Hamas, others in January during the ceasefire. Many say they experienced brutal treatment and conditions while incarcerated. The exact number of Palestinians held in Israeli prisons isn't known. The Israeli government doesn't publish figures, but estimate suggests it's in the thousands. And despite the release, the Israeli military is escalating its brutal assault on Gaza, seizing more land, bombing residential areas, and blocking all food, fuel, medicine, and humanitarian aid from entering the Strip. More than 50,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war began, a number that doesn't include the more than 11,000 missing and presumed dead. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera.
Absolutely sad, absolutely just heartbreaking. I'm glad that those people are back with their families now. Judging by how the one woman was talking, I can only imagine just how scared they were for their families, being detained by Israel, being prisoners of war by Israel for absolutely no reason, like that one gentleman said. He did not know why he was taken. He said he's just a laborer. He's just a guy who works at camps or works in labor and stuff like that. And he is nobody special. Thank you. All right, now we're going to be going to the next video by BBC News. Israel seizing large areas of Gaza as thousands of people left displaced.
Now, the Israeli army is seizing
Thank you, Gumby.
large areas of the Gaza Strip, expanding what it describes as buffer zones. That's according to Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz. He posted a video message from inside Gaza at the newly announced Morag corridor, which has split Gaza between the southern cities of Rafah and Khan Yunis. It follows Israeli media reporting that the Israel Defense Forces is planning to seize and keep the entire city of Rafah. It's estimated a land grab this large could consume around 1/5 of the Gaza Strip. Here's the Defense Minister speaking from Gaza.
The population of Gaza is evacuating from the fighting zones, and large areas are being seized and added to Israel's security zones, leaving Gaza smaller and more isolated. We are working to advance the voluntary immigration plan for Gaza residents in accordance with the U.S. President's vision, which we are working to realize.
Meanwhile, an Israeli airstrike on a residential building.
What does that mean, though? Like, trying to do a ceasefire, which y'all failed? Or do you mean trying to displace hundreds of thousands of people and turn their homes into a Rivera, as Trump has said, which is also a war crime?
East of Gaza City killed at least 29 Palestinians early on Tuesday. Those figures coming from the local hospital. Images reviewed by the BBC confirm children were among those killed in the attack on the neighborhood. The Israeli military said it struck a senior Hamas terrorist whom it did not identify and said it was to minimize civilian harm. A man who lived in that home paused rescue efforts for a moment to give this message to a journalist from Reuters.
They have nothing to do with the fighting. They are children. They are innocent. They are women staying at their homes. They have nothing to do with it. Why would they hit them? What does it take to get these people from under the rubble? There are no resources, no tractors, no machines. There is nothing. What do we do? This guy is trapped under the ceiling and we cannot reach him.
Earlier, I spoke to Miriam Larousi, emergency coordinator in Gaza for Doctors Without Borders. Israel says that it has a new strategy in its war against Hamas to divide up Gaza and seize more territory there. There's been military strikes, but what does that mean and look like on the ground?
What it means on the ground is receiving a phone call from a colleague telling you, I have to leave my place right now with all my family because the Israelis are going to target my building. And waiting to receive a phone call back to know if he's alive or not. It's also learning the same day that the whole family of one of your colleagues passed away after an Israeli shelling. It's also what happened exactly yesterday night, a shelling 300 meters away from our clinic in El Mawasi that caused the deaths of dozens of people, and we received about 7 wounded persons, like really badly wounded, and 2 dead people, including a child, 2 years old. This is what we call the reality in Gaza. We're talking about that kind of level of violence. And this is just the last 24 hours. The shelling is day and night. It's all through Gaza. It also means evacuation notice for large number of population that being forcibly displaced from one minute to the other. How does it reduce? It means taking all your belongings, all your family, and you have to live to wherever you can, under a tent, and see what's going to happen. Maybe that place will be safer, maybe not. And the Gazans today have been displaced like for 9 out of 10 of them, more than 10 times. This is unprecedented. This is strongly illegal. Israel is not respecting the international humanitarian law. And his ally have to force them in a way or another to abide by the law.
And Miriam, what is the biggest need for your teams on the ground?
Look, it's been now 1 month that the blockade is ongoing when it comes to all humanitarian aid entering inside of Gaza, as well as all the commercial goods. It means that right now there is a strong lack of food inside of all Gaza Strip. The food distribution are scarce, and this provokes already a loss of weight in our patients. When it comes to medical supplies, we're already lacking medical supply. We have to to change courses of treatment and get to the point of having courses of treatment that are not the best for our patient because we don't have all the molecules that we would need. We have had a hard time treating non-communicable disease such as diabetes, as epilepsy due to lack of stock.
They can't even treat people with diabetes. Like, that is absolutely horrid. Like, genuinely horrid.
So we're lacking.
And again, the one common denominator behind all of this is Israel for completely blocking any aid from going into Gaza or in Palestine as a whole.
Painkillers, so we have to do dressing to our patient without painkillers. So it's really all through the scope. On the top of it, you know that Israel decided also on the 9th of March to cut the electricity coming from Israel to Gaza and therefore reducing very strongly the access to water inside of Gaza. So right now, hygiene is also an issue. There is no potable water, not enough to cover the need of all the population, which leads also, as the lack of water, to hygiene issues. We're seeing now more and more cases of scabies, and this goes increasing by the day because there is no water, but also a lack of hygiene product on the market. So the border has to reopen, and Israel is the occupant power in all this conflict, and they have right now to let the humanitarian aid and commercial good enter back into Gaza.
And Miriam, in terms of getting a ceasefire back, what are you hoping for to get these negotiations back on track?
We can only hope for that. We can only call for the respect of the humanitarian law on both sides. And there's no other way than a ceasefire to go back to resume the humanitarian aid at the scale that it should be. And we're so far from the scale that it needs, that the Gaza need today to go back to what we can call eventually at some point maybe a normality.
Thanks for joining me.
Just honestly, just so incredibly heartbreaking. Now we're going to be moving on to, and I know we saw a spoiler there, but we're going to be moving on to Senator Bernie Sanders. And he posted a video a couple days ago called Netanyahu's War is Barbaric. The U.S. must end our complicity. Sorry, I'm having a bad reading day again. By Senator Bernie Sanders.
Let me say a few words about an issue that I know millions of Americans are deeply concerned about, and that is the horrible situation in Gaza today. As many of you know, the Netanyahu government of Israel has killed more than 50,000 people in Gaza in the last year and a half since the war began, and wounded over 112,000. 2 weeks ago, as you may know, the Netanyahu government broke the ceasefire, endangering the lives of the remaining hostages. And in those 2 weeks, just the last 2 weeks, they have killed 320 children and wounded
320 children lost. 320 children lost within 2 weeks of the ceasefire by Israel being broken. 300, over 300. Insane. Deplorable.
More than 600 other kids. Further is,
and over 600 other children wounded.
You know, the Netanyahu government has virtually destroyed the entire infrastructure of Gaza, decimated it. Over 90% of the housing.
And for those who don't know, Bernie Sanders is somebody who has been very vocally pro-Israel, despite the fact that he is a more left-leaning politician in the United States of America. He is an independent. He is a social democrat, as he likes to describe himself. And he is somebody who historically has been pro-Israel. And now here he is, somebody who, again, has been pro-Israel for a majority of this conflict, this war, this genocide, and he is even asking for the United States government to stop being complicit in all of this destruction and all of this misery and all of this hate and all of this destruction.
Has been damaged or destroyed. Hundreds of schools have been bombed. Every university has been bombed. The entire healthcare system has been virtually annihilated. Water systems and wastewater plants have been destroyed. And on top of all of that destruction, over the last several weeks, Netanyahu has ordered a total blockade. And you know what that means? It means that over the last 30 days, there has been absolutely no humanitarian aid getting into Gaza, no food, no water, no medicine, no fuel, and that is for an entire month. This is barbaric.
And again, like Bernie Sanders said, by the hands of the Israeli government.
So let us be clear. The United States must end our complicity in these atrocities. We cannot be part of this any longer. And that is why tomorrow I will be forcing votes in the Senate on 2 joint resolutions of disapproval that I have introduced, which will block almost $9 billion in U.S. arms sales to Netanyahu. These resolutions would stop the sale of more than 40,000 bombs, including tens of thousands of massive 2,000-pound bombs that can level an entire city block. That's how powerful these bombs are. As many of you know, I strongly opposed President Biden's blank check military aid to Israel, and I am equally opposed to what President Trump is doing.
Good.
And let me just mention something to you that's almost hard to believe, and that is, as bad and horrific as all of this killing and destruction has been, there is something that is happening or could happen that is even worse. In recent months, President Trump and Israeli officials have openly talked about forcibly expelling all of the 2.2 million people from Gaza to make way for what Trump calls a Riviera.
Which is what I was talking about earlier, and which is, again, a war crime. So not only does the Trump regime want to be complicit in helping this genocide, but he also wants to participate and commit acts of war crimes on these people, and also on top of that be complicit in the genocide too, because displacing people from their homeland like that is genocide as well.
Some billionaire's playground. So think about that. Imagine that. After all of the suffering that the men, women, and children in Gaza have experienced, Trump and Netanyahu are now contemplating forcing millions of people from their homeland in order to create a playground for the rich. And by the way, as I'm sure you know, there is a term for that, and that term is called ethnic cleansing.
Yep.
And it is a war crime.
Yep.
Let me conclude.
See, I'm not just being a overly dramatic little woke SJW. This is legitimately the terms that are used for those actions that Donald Trump is planning on doing in Gaza, that he has talked about doing in Gaza. And like Bernie said, it's ethnic cleansing, it's genocide, it's just disgusting.
By mentioning something that I think most of you already know, and that is that we have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires are able to spend unlimited amounts of money through their super PACs to buy and sell politicians and influence legislation.
Elon Musk comes to mind.
Elon Musk has threatened any Republican who might vote his or her conscience with a well-funded primary opponent. You vote against me, hey, guess what? We have unlimited amounts of money. We're prepared to defeat you in the next election. And AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, has done the same. If you vote, if a member of Congress votes against military aid to Netanyahu, AIPAC is prepared to spend millions of dollars to defeat that member of Congress. And by the way, this is not just idle chatter. That is what they did last year to two very capable members of Congress who had the courage to vote against military aid to Netanyahu. AIPAC spent a whole lot of money, and those candidates, those members of Congress, were defeated. And all of that, amazingly enough, takes place at a time when the American people, ordinary Americans all over this country, do not want to send billions and billions more money, more dollars to Israel. In fact, according to a recent Economist YouGov poll, just 15% of Americans think we should be increasing military aid to Israel. And among people who affiliate with the Democratic Party, the number of people who support Netanyahu is much lower than that. So let us go forward together in doing what is morally right and, in fact, what the American people want. And that is no more military aid to the Netanyahu government to continue their barbaric war against the Palestinian people.
And that should, be pretty simple to follow, honestly. I know it won't be. I know the Trump administration is going to, continue to do what they want to do, but it should be a simple ask.
Thank you all very much. See you soon.
Damn. And again, like he said, only 15% of people actually agree with sending over money and aid to Netanyahu's government, to the Israeli government, to the IDF. And the majority of people want to stop sending money and aid and weapons over to the Netanyahu Israeli government. So sad.